That exacting treatment of the human physiognomy in the figure on the left also reflects its identification as the primary visual metaphor for mapping one's lineage. Starting from the chest or heart and expanding through the arms, each of the sharply delineated transitions of the body were used to denote transitions between generations. In the celebrated female figure from Gabon in the Metropolitan's collection on the right, once owned by André Derain, this is manifested through the fullness of the discrete component volumes that suggest a corporeal presence of immense physical strength. The oval breasts are attributes of power whose definition complements the muscular curves of the shoulders, upper arms, forearms, and calves. In ancestral rites among the Fang and throughout equatorial Africa, the color white drawn from kaolin found in riverbeds is synonymous with the afterlife and otherworldly authority. Seen here applied to the surface of the mask on the left, the awe-inspiring spectral apparitions of such Nguy masks exposed perpetrators of antisocial acts. In contrast, the corpus of Fang reliquary sculpture embraces a broad spectrum of gradations of wood tones, from intense black to a light golden, reddish-brown. At one extreme, inky midnight black is identified in Fang society with silence, disjunction, loss, and the great divide separating the ancestors from their living descendants. That notion is reflected in the act of blackening one's heart by rubbing charcoal on it in order to silence painful sentiments in one's heart. In contrast to redden is to awaken or revive. That characterizes both the processes of fortifying ties to the ancestors through the application of libations to their relics, and the state of heightened awareness attained by initiates into the ancestor cult, whose bodies are anointed with red pigments. The parallel and contemporaneous genres developed by Kota and Mahongwe sculptors distilled the visual references to lineage ancestors even more radically. In those traditions, the representation was highly schematic and especially two-dimensional. The focus of the imagery is on the head that was given endlessly varied treatment. Immediately below a cylindrical neck terminates in an aperture for the attachment of a relic bundle. This minimal reference to a bodily structure was thus the site at which the collectively unified bodily matter of the ancestors was conflated. And that actually you can see in this area down here. In Kota works, this passage is boldly articulated as a lozenge motif associated with powers of fertility and procreation. In this corpus, the fiery chromatic tones associated with ritual transformation are present in the rich palette of copper and brass metals applied to the surface of a wood understructure that are skillfully manipulated to dramatically enliven the reliquary's visual impact. The more volumetric carved wood figurative elements created by Punu on the right and Sogo on the left, sculptors in central and southern Gabon, are likewise abbreviated, truncated representations designed to be integrated into relic bundles. In their complete states, such reliquary ensembles juxtapose the vividly described figurative element with the amorphous abstraction of the relic bundle conjoined with its base. These Sogo and Punu examples draw upon red and white pigments to qualify the significance of the imagery. On the right, the ethereal whiteness of the Punu female's introspective visage and the amorphous packet that anchors her alternates with the intense red of her torso and delicately carved crowning coiffure. A closely related sensibility is apparent in the emphasis on the primary colors applied to embete reliquary sculptures. In these works, the hollow torso is itself the vessel in which sacra are housed, while the columnar expanse of the trunk is highlighted with white kaolin from the ancestral realm. The animated transition to the bent knees and broad muscular calves is accentuated with red. This kind of bold juxtaposition suggests that the potency of the matter at the core of the representation imbues it with a vitality that galvanizes the figure into action. The color red's association with mediation and mystical power is also translated into other distinctive regional reliquary genres produced by Bembe and Bwende artists in Congo. These soft sculptures enshrouded a packet of relics derived from a notable ancestor within a rectilinear torso wrapped in layers of cloth. That unit was expanded through the addition of bodily appendages. The powerful status of the prominent individuals honored through this highly formulaic imagery was expressed through the selection of costly textiles obtained through trade that ranged from blankets rendered crimson to industrially manufactured printed cloths in a variety of red patterns. The artists from Equatorial Africa who created the sculptural components of regional reliquaries emphasized the head and the expressive potential of their subject's gaze. This is apparent in Fang sculpture both when the head is the crowning element of a full-bodied figure and when it is isolated as an independent subject. The Fang consider the head to be the locus of an individual's spiritual essence, its identification as a site of concentrated power from which personal charisma emanates led to the selection of the crania as the relic worthy of preservation. Artists reflected on the heightened importance of the head by focusing on it also as an autonomous subject, aggrandizing its relative scale, enhancing it with elaborate coiffures, and emphasizing the eyes as focal points of the composition. This is especially apparent in the monumental male figure on loan from the Dapper collection, formerly owned by the sculptor Sir Jacob Epstein. That massive presence on the right is crowned with a regal mane of locks that appear to weigh down the back of the head. Enormous brass discs applied to the ocular recesses dominate the face. Given the subtle upward lift of the head, the figure appears to gaze rapturously outward, his attention concentrated on something beyond us. The effect is that of an omniscient ancestor focused on that which is not apparent to the ordinary senses. In contrast, the author of the incomparably elegant and serenely introspective head on the left chose to inscribe the eyes as narrow slits. The closed eyes suggest a state of intense concentration and inward focus. In such cases where a freestanding head was designed to be positioned at the summit of a relic receptacle, the cylindrical container was conceived as its body. The ancestors' vigilance, attentiveness, and heightened awareness were further underscored by gazes accentuated by the addition of matter to the area of the eyes that ranged from mirrors, as in the case of the head on the right, on loan from the Neuchâtel Museum in Switzerland, to relics such as teeth embedded into deeply excavated cavities, as you can see if you look closely at the work on the left, on loan from a private collection that is in the first gallery of the exhibition. As noted earlier, Mahongwe and Kota sculptors concentrated their efforts entirely on elaboration of the head.